Bonanza. When you woke up this morning, did you purposely say, I'm going to confine myself to a box? Or do you just avoid putting any conscious thought into today? When you're busy going at it, literally or figuratively, do you ever find yourself pausing for a moment to realize what's going on? Or are you just reacting? When you hear the saying, "May I have your attention, please," do you continue as you were, or do you consider the information you're about to receive might actually be valuable? When I was growing up, my mother used to ask me to do things, and sometimes her reasoning was, because I said so. Looking back, I wish perhaps I took the time to pause, think, and consider the ramifications of my choices. Good Wednesday to you. Today is Wednesday, October 5th, 2016. This is episode number 18 of Pause, Think, Consider. Thank you for tuning in today to listen to the episode. For those of you that have subscribed and have been listening consistently, please go into iTunes, give us a rating, leave a comment. For those that haven't, please go to iTunes. You can search for Pause, Think, Consider, subscribe, ensure that each and every episode, as they are made, are delivered to you, just like an email. And then you too can go on and give us a rating. Today's topic is about the concept of being fun versus serious. Having the ability to have fun versus being serious. For more information on this topic, you can go to the website pausethinkconsider.com/ all one word, fun, VS, the letters V, S, serious. That's all one word, fun, the letters VS, serious. I don't know if I'm the only person that has noticed this, but I've noticed it's almost as if the mean mug face on certain individuals is what they were born with. When they came out of their mother's womb, it was the mean mug face. The always looking angry. Always looking very serious. Rarely, if ever, cracking a smile. And then there's other individuals that seem to be the exact opposite. They're getting those wrinkles, the crow's feet in the corner of their eyes, around the edges of their mouth from smiling so much at like age 20. The exact opposite. And I wonder if you've noticed or come encounter, or maybe even are one of those types of individuals. The type of individual that everything's just fun. Everything that you do is you love life, highly positive individual, just always smiling, always laughing, always having a good time. Versus somebody who is always serious. It's always business. You can never let your guard down. And how we can have a balance. Is it possible to have a balance? Is it better to shift one way or the other? Is it a negative to be one or the other? In regards to being serious, what I've personally noticed is that individuals that always feel like they have to have their guard up, that are always in business mode, that are always beating the drum of having to be on 24/7. I'd argue to say that this isn't something that they were born with. This is something that's been developed. Nature versus nurture, this is a nurture category. Now, I personally am a highly competitive person. Doesn't matter what we're doing. Highly competitive. And I've actually struggled with the ability of finding activities, finding things throughout my day that I simply do out of pure enjoyment. Not from the competitive standpoint, not to try and get better so I can succeed, but just doing it for the sheer enjoyment. I think part of the reason behind that, and it might be a similar reason for other individuals that always appear to be serious, always have it turned on to business mode, whether it's on the clock or off the clock. And I think in similar circumstances like mine, it takes identification and not necessarily a coming to Jesus like moment, but a realization for what that does to your psyche, what that does for your circle, and what that does for your environment. And growing up, I've always found myself, I was much younger. I started school a year earlier than everyone. And as I mentioned in previous episodes, I dealt with bullying from virtually kindergarten on. And I don't know that it was particularly a result of my age, because I don't know that that necessarily mattered. I was always much smaller than everybody else. I lay blame to genetics 100%, not my age. I'd venture to say if I didn't start school a year early, or even as a lot of people that I know, they hold their kids back for athletic reasons. And even if I started 2 years later, which developmentally, for me, that wouldn't have worked. I was already bored with preschool and everything else, and that was the main reason my mother started me early. Because not only was I going to drive her absolutely batshit crazy, but I was just going to get into trouble. And so it was better to start me in school and to challenge me. But with that, and with the bullying, often came this inner desire to prove people wrong, to prove my capabilities, to prove that I belonged. And through all of this desire to prove, a very competitive, very serious tone about me was how I generally had an outlook, my general outlook on things. And so it didn't necessarily matter what I was doing. Sports was obvious. I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best that I possibly could. And I think there's a difference between wanting to improve yourself versus wanting to prove yourself. Wanting to prove yourself versus wanting to improve yourself. And for so much of my life, it's been about proving myself. And as a result of that, I've heard many times, Jesse, why do you take this so seriously? Why are you taking this so seriously? Why are you so serious about this? And I always admired people, was jealous of individuals that, in my perception, didn't always have to have their A game turned on. They could either coast or they had the raw talent, and they were able to enjoy more of the moment. For me, so much of it was about the future. And I needed to lay the groundwork and the building blocks today in order to hopefully reap success of tomorrow. Success wasn't going to come just by handing it to me. And that's not to say I didn't have any fun or that I wasn't a happy child or I didn't have a good and fun childhood. That's not saying that. There's plenty of joy and happiness, but it laid the groundwork for personal expectations of which nobody else has. While other people had high expectations for me, mine was always a step beyond that. And as a result, I approach things fairly seriously. For as much of a goof off, and for as much as somebody that loved telling jokes and teasing and just having fun, everything was very purpose driven. Whether it was making friends or schoolwork or post-curricular activities, everything was very motive driven. And yet you look at the opposite. An individual that is always smiling. It always seems to be relishing and living in the moment and just having a zest for life. These individuals, these are the individuals that I was always jealous of, that I perceived as either not having to prove themselves or just being naturally gifted. It's my perception. Whether that was reality or not didn't make a difference to me in those moments. And so for much of my life, I went through this balance of realizing that I was out of whack. That I needed to have things that I could just do for enjoyment. And I've always been known as an all or nothing type of individual. Very rarely doing something just for simple enjoyment out of it. There's plenty of different examples I could use for a transition of this in finding activities for simple enjoyment, not necessarily for being the absolute best. That doesn't mean I didn't want to do my best. That doesn't mean I didn't want to do better, but that wasn't the primary objective. And I look at currently, if I'm analyzing my current life, the game of pickleball, one of the growing and rising sports, fastest growing sports in America. Partially, I believe, because it is a game that the retired baby boomer generation can play, and also younger generations can play. Age, gender, there's no discrimination in this sport. And I have played individuals in their 80s and individuals that were 8. And everywhere in between. Some were better than others, but everyone came out there to have for the most part, to have a good time and to exercise. And it was a game that, for various reasons, how they connected. For me, I got into the game and sport of pickleball through my parents. My mom has been playing for about a year. My father, I'll say 4 months, maybe 6 months at this point. But my mom, with being an empty nester, was seeking an activity that she wanted to do. Went from yoga to rock climbing. It's like you see in the movies when the kids are gone. What does mom and dad now finally get to do? And my mother tried a million different things. And I'm not exactly sure how she wound up on pickleball, but she did. And I started as a result of a request for Mother's Day. Her activity was she wanted me to go with her and to play. Never played before. Played tennis before, broke my wrist. Diving for a ball like a lunatic that I am. Completely horizontal, fully horizontal on a hard court. The cast during summer was a bitch, but I was like a king in the pool. A little floaty chair and a bag over my wrist. And the only kid that was allowed to do that in the pool because my parents got a sign off. So while I find myself wanting to improve in pickleball, because since then I've started playing more actively. And especially with the weather being nice in the Pacific Northwest, not having a lot of extracurricular activities at this time, and then also the convenience of being able to wake up whenever the hell I want right now with being in between jobs. But I found that because it started out as, and has remained very much a sport that I've done and an activity to do with my parents, that's not to say that I play with my parents every single night that I go. Sometimes it just works out that it doesn't happen. And I see them, I say hello, and I get to talk to them, but we don't actually get on the court together. But as a result of that, it has remained a fun family activity. And while there's other occurrences, this is the most current activity that I have where, while improvement and getting better is something I want to do, having fun is the first priority that I have when I'm out there on the court playing. And so that tells me that you can, even as a serious individual, have balance. And so to circle back, to come full circle and back around, is it possible to be both a fun and serious individual? Or does it need to be a one or the other? Is it beneficial to be one or the other? I've always had the perspective, no matter what it is you do, that balance is key. Some people may argue you can't have too much of a good thing. I would argue, yes, you can. Too much of a good thing, all of a sudden, with what previously may have been a treat, has now become a staple and no longer has the same effects. No longer have the same appreciation that maybe it once brought you. So having that balance. Work-life balance is a very common in the workplace. It's something that I've asked myself in doing some soul searching. What is that work-life balance that I need, that I want, that I desire? There would be a great example. The word balance is in there. That means having a balance, not all one way or the other. What do you need in order to have that balance? This isn't to say that it necessarily has to be 50-50. Maybe it's 60-40. But if you're starting to get in the 80-20, I think you're probably tipping a little far. If you're a serious individual 90% of the time and have fun 10%, you probably should be having more fun. And I think when you find that you're out of whack and you try and course correct, it may feel awkward. It may feel uncomfortable. But it's one of those things that is highly beneficial, especially when you initially make the change. After the uncomfortable feeling of making that change has worn off, and you now have a new baseline in comparison to what that previous baseline is, I think you'll find it to be beneficial and, most importantly, enjoyable. And if it's enjoyable, that means it's worthwhile and something that should be continued. So the answer to the first question is being one way or the other, 100% serious, 100% fun. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I would say it is a bad thing, and that having some sort of balance. Some sort of balance. What that balance is for you, what that looks like on a daily basis, a weekly, monthly, within your lifetime, is really dependent on your personal situation and your goals and what you're pursuing. For some people, I look at movie actors that they could be on set shooting a film for 2 years, and then they go for a few years of not working on film. Major motion picture people. Maybe that's when they're on tour promoting it. Some people would find that to be unbalanced, because if you look at it from the lens of a daily basis, it's very one-sided. Could be perceived as being very one-sided. And yet, the longer time frame, if you look at the longer time frame, it actually winds up being more balanced. So it's all about, as we talked about yesterday, perspective. Perspective in terms of that balance. But that balance is only going to come through self-awareness. Saying, well, I'm really unbalanced right now, but I will be balanced because I'm going to course correct in 5 years from now. Well, I suppose at the end of the day, you are accountable to you, and determining whether you are successful at achieving that balance will be dependent on your ability to hold to your word. However, even as a movie star, even as an individual that knows they have to put in the work, because we do not reap rewards without putting in work, contrary to popular belief, even for those individuals that are born into wealth and fame and fortune, that can go very quickly. And it takes work to find ultimate happiness, to have the success that you'd like to have. Even if you're essentially given everything you need right from the start, that doesn't equal happiness. Happiness is created. Because happiness means something different for you as it might mean for me. Perhaps it's the same thing. But the ability to be both fun and to be serious, and finding that balance, I believe, takes the ability to find activities in which you can get either or. As the example that I gave with the game of pickleball being something that's fun and something I can play for several hours at a time. If we look at a full day's period, that's a nice chunk. Several hours, 4 to 5 hours, potentially, out of a 24. It's only a sixth, but that's only one thing. That's only one activity. There's plenty of other opportunities to have fun and to not be serious. And having those moments where you're able to mentally check out or have a laugh, let your hair down. Very important. Versus if you're the jokester that is always having fun. I think it's important to find things that make you put your head down, make you focus, make you try and put in all your effort to see what it is that you can be. You look at comedians, and perception would be that, well, they just have fun all day long. And I think in the very sad case of the late, great Robin Williams, we can see that it is not always fun and games. Individuals in those positions are not always having joy and happiness every day of their lives. Perhaps it is a facade that is put on. So finding that balance. In the case of a comedian, the work that they must put in to be a comedian, to perfect their craft, to ensure that people actually want to pay to come and see them, is where the serious part of their job comes in. The promotion is the serious part. Even though they may be cracking jokes, it's the serious part of the job. You can look at relationships. As I mentioned before, you need to get beyond the lust and have some negative, have some challenging times and deal with them. That would be in the same sense. Being able to have serious conversations. If you can't have serious conversations, how can it possibly be a serious relationship? How can it be serious? perhaps you don't want a serious relationship. Perhaps it's only for fun. And I would venture to say that you should explore some serious conversations, even if things don't work out. Because that balance is something that all of us can use. That balance of having fun, and that balance of being able to put our nose to the grindstone is all good for us. It makes those fun times that much more rewarding. And it makes the achievements that we're able to get as a result of focusing and being serious that much more enjoyable. And it almost exponentially makes the benefits of having fun and being serious that much greater as a result of the benefit. It's hard to go anywhere when you're already at 100%. The whole 110%, that doesn't exist. It's 100%. That's full capacity. There's nowhere to go but down. So to have 100% in anything is only going to allow you to go down and for it to not be as effective. Versus if you're, say, 75-25, you have a whole 75% or 25% that you can increase at any one time. And that allows you that balance to reap greater rewards, have greater success. So in recap, we talked about the concept of being fun, having fun, being serious. And that there's individuals that we've all come across that they always have this business-like look on their face. Never seeing them let their hair down, whether they're on or off the clock. And then there's other individuals that always just seem to be having fun. There's nothing ever serious about them. And through analyzing that, determining that balance is necessary, finding ways to have balance, to have fun, not be 100% serious all the time, let your hair down. And at the same time, being able to put your nose to the grindstone and do work and be serious. And as a result of that, reaping the rewards to be that much greater. I want to thank you all for listening in today. Please go check out the website at pausethinkconsider.com/, all one word, fun, the letters VS, and then serious. Fun VS serious. In addition, please don't forget to go onto iTunes, either subscribe so you can get each and every episode on a daily basis, or go on, give us a rating, give us a comment, let us know what you think. I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow on Pause, Think, Consider.